Welcome to Ring Talk, the Goodwin Boxing Weekly show with myself, Martin Theobald, and Steve. How are you, Steve?
I'm good, my friend. Been busy signing a few more boxers, negotiating contracts, sorting out big fights, staging title shows, more champions. It's all been a bit of a mad week.
Yeah, we're just catching up off camera about all the moving parts that are going on at the moment.
Mm.
Some of which we can talk about, some of which we can't, unfortunately. But I can promise people they are exciting things for big names and big fights that are all going on behind the scenes. But the things we can't talk about will park. The things we can talk about from the weekend, which was Box Mania, which was a brilliant show. Titles galore, eliminators galore, stoppages, cuts, head clashes, fights called off earlier than a Ben Whittaker fight. All sorts going on. So let's touch on it, shall we? Should we start from the beginning with an impressive stoppage for Taiwo and Mosuro?
Well, I mean, Dylan Courtney's never been stopped, and it was stopped. It was stopped on a cut eye. It was a cut eye. So let's be real. It wasn't a knockout, but Tyrone was very, very impressive to that point. And I thought he was very, very strong against Dylan. I think what it showed was Tyrone is a very, very exciting talent. And from Dylan's perspective, he needs to drop down in weight. He was naturally a super middle when he was fighting as a home fighter. And I think he's fighting too heavy against the really big, strong guys. So I think he'll come down a weight but Taiwo is a handful for anybody at light heavyweight. And we'll build him. He's exciting, an exciting prospect.
Yeah, and you could see he was hurting Dylan. I'm sure Dylan won't sort of appreciate me saying it, but when he's going through the motions of sticking his tongue out and sort of shaking his head, you think, right, something's getting through here. And you could see it was having an effect. So it was a good performance by Taiwo. Sher beat Jordan Harding.
Yeah, I mean, Sher ran out 58-56 winner, performed well. The time's now for him to step up. He got some damage to the rib, I think, in the first round. So
Yeah.
he fought with damaged ribs. So fair credit to him. He's a boxer that suffered an injury, but suffered some and company carries on battling through it, which is quite nice to see in our sport. But yeah, he was very, full credit to him, and he battled through it, but he was sort of struggling a little bit, but he still managed to see it out. Jordan Harding will be one of the tough journeymen in the country. You can see that he's got all the talent to really test a lot of prospects up and down the country. So full credit to him and his trainer, Liam Conway, as well. Sher, Richard Evans, his trainer, they will move on, and we'll see how he is in a week's time. Ideally, I'd like to get him out before the end of the year, but it may well be that we have to wait till next year, depending on injury situation.
All right. Not in any particular order for the rest of it, because they just sort of happen, fight after fight, title after title, 10-rounder after 10-rounder. So we're just going to fire through them. Bilal, Fawaz and Ryan Amos.
No, Bilal won 98-92. He handled Ryan Amos far easier than I even thought he would. I thought that was a really tough fight for Bilal, but it's one that we had to take. But I thought he was boxed brilliantly. Slick, landed the better punches. He's now mandatory for the English title. So, he'll get a title shot an English title shot before the middle of next year. Could be earlier. We'll see how the moving parts move. Bostan's fighting on the 26th of October on a Matchroom card. Davis, possibly, who he's supposed to be fighting, is fighting in Riyadh. Are they going to fight each other? But we got Bilal Fawaz waiting in the wings. And we did try and make this Bostan fight before. But Matchroom said, we don't want Bilal Fawaz. He's in the Who Needs Him club. So they've been trying to avoid Bilal Fawaz. Now they can't avoid him anymore. That's my job. I'll put him in the picture. Now they've got to fight him.
I'll give a different take on it. I was there. I watched it. He's a very frustrating fighter, Bilal.
Yeah, that's fine.
Now, that's not to take away. He controlled the fight. I thought the scorecard was too wide, personally.
Yeah.
I thought Amos worked hard but couldn't find a solution. It was like me doing a maths GCSE paper. Like I had the application, but I couldn't quite get over the line. Bilal, for all his posturing, all his posing, and he's fun to watch, and he's sort of an eccentric fighter. The work rate needs to be upped for me, and maybe that'd happen if the opponent was better.
At the higher level, he won't win an English title with that work rate. That I accept.
Yeah. And yeah, I was just a little bit frustrated watching him. That I wanted to see him do more action, less posturing and posing. He was in control enough that he could be comfortable to win the fight. I'd love to have seen him put his foot down a little bit, like he did in the 10th round. He should have done that in the 8th, in my view, and I think he could have got Amos out of there. But it was comfortable enough. Need to see a little bit more.
To win the English, yes. But he done the right job. I do think Bilal Fawaz is somebody that will up his game depending on who he's fighting.
Yeah.
Because he looked, when he won the Southern Area middleweight title against Gideon Onyani, he just did enough. But Gideon Onyani is nowhere near the level of Ryan Amos. Nowhere near. And so what I'm saying is it seems to me with Bilal, he does enough as he steps up the levels. And but it'd be interesting to see. But yes, I do agree the work. But I'm sure the work rate will increase when he needs to do it. I don't think he needed to do it on Saturday. So he done his thing. And I think that is him. But I think to win in English with the people we're talking about, he will have to have a higher work rate, but I'm sure he'll deliver that.
Yeah, I suppose what I'd say is there's clearly more gears there that you could go through. I'd like to have seen them on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's fair.
We'll touch on it quickly because it was the last fight of the night and it ended very quickly. Denis Denikaev against Matthew King. Unfortunate ending.
Yeah, technical cut round 1. We rescheduled the fight. They'll go again, but wasn't a fight really, was it? It's not much to talk about. They were just getting into it, and there was a nasty accidental head clash with a cut. Meant Dennis couldn't continue, so they gave it a technical draw.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say about it than that, really. Denis Ballazhi against Manoj Kumar.
Well, he stopped him with a great body shot, didn't he? I mean, Dennis is he's a supreme talent, and I think he's got lots of potential. His record is flattering because we've matched him well. He just needs more time. You can see in the fight that you've got somebody that could be very, very good in due course. He just needs time. And so I spoke with his trainer, his new trainer, a couple of days ago, and we were both on the same page. He just needs experience and needs to be developed at a slower rate to learn. Because when Kumar started charging at him, he didn't really know what to do. So he just needs to learn and get some more rounds against tougher guys. But I think he'll be a really, really good talent down the line, but he just needs more experience. But he's 6-0, 3 KOs. It's going to be difficult to match. But yeah, it is what it is. He can hit. But again, really, we need these fighters that are going to push him and test him. Yeah,
I thought he was a little bit flat. I don't want to be too critical about it because Kumar was unorthodox, perhaps. Difficult sort of challenge. A different challenge that he's probably not seen before. I did think he was a little bit flat, Ballazhi, compared to when I've seen him previously.
He was fighting though with a damaged right hand.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
He really shouldn't have fought. So he was basically he was throwing mainly left-hand jabs and he wasn't really fighting fully. It was enough. He was okay to fight, but he wasn't able to throw that with the power he wanted. So I think he went into the fight with really not being anywhere near 100%. So, I'll give him a fair pass on that.
Yeah, fair one. A fighter I was quite impressed with, actually. And I say that because I've previously been critical of his performances. Constantine Williams stopping George O'Leary.
Let's have your view. They're both my fighters. So I think I'll let you talk about this one.
I've previously not been hugely impressed by Constantine, if I'm perfectly honest. He struggled to perform. And I've chatted with his coach, Terry Colton, numerous times. And he says in the gym, he's an absolute beast. He's a handful. He's taking people out sort of weights above him, sort of in theory levels above him. He's causing issues in the gym. But he was saying he struggles to put that into the ring on a fight night. He did that on Saturday night. He really set about George O'Leary, and George O'Leary looked out of his depth, if I'm honest. But I think that's because Constantine stepped up to a level that hadn't been seen previously. I'd like to see George given another opportunity down the line, go away and sort of rebuild if he chooses to, because I think there's something there with him. But Constantine made use of his size, his power, technique, abilities, and put it all together in a way that I hadn't seen before.
Fair assessment.
Yeah. Yeah. So not to take anything away from George, because I think he faced a version of Constantine that hadn't been seen before by me. So I was hugely impressed by him. Where are we moving on to? Kingsley, Egbunike, and Tyrone King.
That was a good fight. I mean, Tyrone King deserved not to be stopped. Let's start off. I mean, he put on. I thought I will start with him. He's not my fighter, but he was 5-0, and he was taking on somebody far more experienced as an amateur, far more experienced as a professional. He gave it his all. He brought an army of support. He's a credit to himself, a credit to the sport, and he deserves to come again down the line. A really nice human being, managed by Joe Elfid. They were really decent to deal with all the way through. But it was a big ask for him taking on Obi. And, Obi was always ahead in the fight. And he obviously stopped him in the last. Yeah, I don't know. Well, how did you see the fight?
I just thought Obi was a level above. And that's not to be horrible to Tyrone King. Because actually I sat with Adam Thorne. It's a sort of big shout out to our commentary duties on Saturday night. And Matthew was there with him as well. Saying for Tyrone to take that fight, Tyrone brought, I don't know, 200 was it, maybe, to York Hall?
Quite a few.
Yeah, like the atmosphere that was generated by Tyrone King. And the energy level in York Hall when he fought went up several notches. And the way that he handled himself, sort of from the ring walk to the moment Obi got into the ring and sort of squared off with him, it was great fun. Tyrone was great value. And Adam and I were saying sort of, it was almost like we couldn't really understand why he's taken this fight, because he's got such a good following. He's got such a fan-friendly style of fighting as well. You can see why people wanted to support him. Wait your time, Tyrone. There will be another opportunity to come and get that Southern Area title against somebody that's an easier opportunity than Obi. So yeah, it almost seemed we couldn't quite fathom why you'd want to take that fight when you've got all the things behind you that open up opportunities elsewhere down the road. So yeah, it was a little bit early for him. I think it was the wrong opponent. Obi was better, sort of significantly. It was unfortunate that Tyrone never got to see the final bell, but yeah, good on him. Good, I enjoyed the fight.
And Obi now moves back. Really, he's proved he's Southern Area level and beyond. He wants now to start moving up levels of titles now, because he's proven he's beyond Southern Area level.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see what delivers. It's not easy to make that move, because if you look at it in that division, Bilal Fawaz is now mandatory for the title. Obi is behind there now, but with being a Southern Area champion defending it, it puts him in line. So we'll see what opens up. A lot can happen. We don't really know what's going on with Boston Davis and that particular scenario at the moment. So we'll have to see. But obviously he's going to get a big opportunity next year.
And then final one, I've left it to the end because it was probably my favourite fight of the evening. Little smiling Lewis Frimpong got the stoppage victory against Frankie Storey in what was just an attritional, hard, horrible, enjoyable fight.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, my view before the fight was that potentially it was too early for Frankie Storey. Lewis Frimpong had already beaten an undefeated fighter in Conor Hathaway to win a Southern Area title, had lost to Zach Miller, who's a real talent away from home for the English, but not lost by a lot. It was close. He'd fought at a much higher level as a pro, whereas Frankie had beaten Ryan Walker, who, with all due respect to Ryan, was at the end of his career, realistically, when he beat him. So Frankie hadn't been in any attritional wars, whereas Lewis had. So for me, it was a situation where, had it come too early for Frankie, was Lewis the tougher man? You know, could Frankie outbox Lewis for 10 rounds? Well, the answer was that Lewis was tougher and stronger, and that was the end of it, really. He was just a tougher, stronger man, and he basically broke him down.
Yeah, and the experience as well, sort of, it showed when the cut opened up on Frankie. Lewis knew exactly how to exploit that. The referee wasn't doing anything to stop him doing what he was doing. And so he was absolutely getting in, sitting on his chest, working his head around while he was getting, throwing the punches. But he was showing that experience. I just think Frankie sort of didn't quite know how to work himself out of that situation.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And Lewis now moves on. He's mandatory for the English title as well. We got some exciting fights coming. Some exciting fights.
I like this period because I always sort of compare it to sort of this is the harvesting period. This is where you've done loads of sort of groundwork and loads of sort of sowing of the seeds, and now it's all coming to fruition, and you start to. And these things are cyclical, aren't they? Quite often,
Hopefully, we're building up plenty below to move again. And this is what we try to do. This is what good management's about. We're not there to put our fighters in fights that mean nothing. We're there to develop their careers, to move them on. That's what we're here for. And that's why we generate as many champions as we do, because there's always a meaning and a method in the madness.
And it made me chuckle when Constantine had won or retained the Southern Area. I looked down and there's Ellis Steward sat sort of with his dad Terry Steward, and I thought, right, there's a succession planning. As in, not that you're saying Ellis beats Constantine at all, but that's the next one to move into that Southern area.
And Mitchell Frearson.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then at super welterweight, you've got Billy Stanbury sitting there ready to go. You've got, in each weight division, what we do, we move them, but then underneath it all, we've got these developing fighters all ticking away, all learning their trade, and then building them to the next stage. It's a way of process. It's a system that's proven to work over 10 plus years. It's why boxers come and sign with us, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's the beauty of the Fight Night series as well, and being able to sort of give the experience and the exposure and the fights for the younger ones coming through. As I say, it just made me chuckle when I sat there and thought, well, you've got Brad as the English, you've got sorry, it's the British, you've got Linus as the English, you've got Constantine as the Southern area, you've got young Ellis sat over there, as you say, amongst other names as well that'd be interesting.
I wonder whether one manager has ever had the Southern area, the English, and the British champions all at the same time.
Yeah.
Probably unlikely.
Yeah.
We need the same weight category.
Need to find that out. So yeah, that was Saturday night. The card was great fun. There was sort of a bit of everything in there.
For sure.
A bit like in Saudi Arabia, really. So I'm going to bring up the card for that over here. So have you watched it all back? Did you manage to get home for any of it?
I have. I didn't get home for any of it, but I watched it all back.
I haven't. Do you know what? I'm not going out of my way to go and find Chris Eubank Jr. against Camille. I can't pronounce his surname.
Yeah.
And just to watch a man who's been, popped for PEDs, stand in the ring afterwards and shout at him. I'm not going out of my way to see that. There's various ones. I haven't bothered to go and watch Jai Apatai, Jack Massey, because we'd said beforehand Jack's going to be out of his depth, and Jack was out of his depth. So, do you know what? To some degree, I'm going to skip over some of that stuff because we'd be here all night. But Jai Apatai, again, I haven't watched it. But by all accounts, he's picked Jack apart and he's levels above. And, I don't know what other Brits he's going to beat up. We're sort of running out of them to feed him. But let's touch on the ones that really make a difference, really sort of caught the headlines. Sky Nicholson, good win against Raven Chapman.
Just literally too slick, too good, too fast, too accurate. That's it. Raven is a good fighter, but she's not as good as Sky Nicholson. And that's the end of it. She was not, it's all about levels. Raven's a good fighter, but Sky Nicholson is far, far, far better.
Yeah, somebody had messaged me on Twitter on Friday, I think it was, sort of saying, "Oh, these are the odds for Raven Chapman. Do you think it's worth a punt?" No. Said, I think she'll really work. No, no, she won't. It's no disrespect to Raven, but Sky is and was always levels above her, and probably levels above many in that division.
For sure.
So yeah, fair play, and well done to Eddie Lamb, well done to Al Smith in their work with her. Ben Whittaker, Liam Cameron. I have watched that one back.
And what you go first? What's your view on the fight? I'll go second, but you go first.
My view on the fight, I mean, probably echoes lots of other people's views, really, that Whittaker started strongly, was sort of picking him apart a bit, and then it got to sort of round 4, and Cameron had not disappeared, and Whittaker was starting to show signs of a man who was tiring a bit. And then sort of fast forward a little bit to the ending. I've watched it several times, several angles. I struggle to see where the ankle issue occurs. Now, I'm not saying that he's made it up. I'm not saying that they've sort of told him to get out of there. Just that I struggle to see where that occurs. The overall flavour, and I probably include the post-fight activities of allegedly attacking a fan in an airport and the sort of photos. It just leaves a bad taste. All of it leaves a bad impression of Ben Whittaker, from fighter to person.
And I do think, genuinely, I think if that fight continued, he was going to lose that fight. That's how I think the stories of Whittaker in gyms are quite well known. He doesn't like it when it gets tough. And it's okay winning 3 rounds as an amateur. It's totally different in the pro game. And he hasn't got the power, the real power. And I'm not talking about low level power. When you go up levels, you got to have real power. We discussed this last week. He hasn't got the power to get to the highest level. We said this last week. And to me, he was exposed. And he's not going to reach that high level. And that's really the end of it. Because he's going to have to do a rematch. He may be better in the rematch, and he may beat Cameron in the rematch. But Cameron's going to go into that rematch even more confident, wanting to rough him up even more. And if it gets with Ben Whittaker, the thing is, what happens when it gets really tough? And what we don't know what happens when it gets really tough because he went off injured.
Yeah, and I mean, to be clear about it, I don't think Ben Whittaker quit because
No, I don't. I don't think he quit.
it's really hard to sort of, we're not in his body as he's 6 rounds in, getting tussled over the rope. We don't know how he landed, don't know if he sort of, whatever it may be. And also that discoloration as you go over the top rope and sort of land upside down, all those things. I can't give him any blame whatsoever for not
And
carrying
I think
on
with this
because,
quitting thing is disrespectful because I don't, and I'm not saying that we don't look. The only person that knows if he quit is Ben Whittaker. He's the only person that knows. You can make all these allegations, but he only knows. What I do know though, and what I do know is Liam Cameron was getting on top. And Liam Cameron, in my opinion, was going on to win that fight. And that's the point I was going to say. So maybe the injury saved him because I think he would have got beat.
yeah, no, I don't disagree. And sort of when you think Lyndon Arthur, granted, it was very tight, but sort of beat Liam Cameron without, I don't think anybody would really argue the outcome of that fight. We know where Lyndon Arthur sits within the scale of sort of light heavyweights in the world. If Liam Cameron's there or there, his hands full with that, then the experiment. I'm not saying it's over, but it doesn't bode well for the future necessarily. And maybe as an off night, maybe there's more that we'll see of Ben.
But as we said, that's another a boxer fighter that's gone down. Fraser Clark. They're running out of fighters at boxer.
Yeah, yeah, especially if the two that are rumored to have left, which I won't talk about. When are Ballazhi and Okoli fighting? I don't know. Moving on. Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark.
That was brutal, wasn't it?
Do you know it? Yeah, it was one of those ones that I think I just brought it up on my phone down sort of York Hall, where Clark's jaw goes swinging to the side. You start thinking that is that sort of neurological rather than physical
Mm.
damage. Thankfully, it wasn't by all accounts. But you sort of have those fears when you initially see it. Um, Irrespective of whatever it wasn't pretty. And Fabio Wardley is an absolute monster.
Reportedly, Fraser's intended to come back. Don't see the point, to be honest, but I think he should retire now with the Olympic bronze medal. I just unless he wants to be another Derek Chisora and just keep fine. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what they want. There's probably a lot of money in it for him to continue. But Fabio Wardley is an exciting talent. I'm not saying he's going to be a world champion, but he's going to continue to create a lot of fun en route.
If you could pick a fight for Fabio, his next fight, not as a manager, just sort of what should the next fight be? I've got a name in mind that I thought of earlier that I thought would be amazing.
What should it be, or what would I like to see?
That's somewhere in the middle, something that's not
What I
like
would like to see, what I would like to see is Moses Italma.
yeah.
What I think we should see is a Joseph Parker.
I keep hearing Joseph Parker. I don't want to see Joseph Parker. I want to see Wilder.
That would be a good fight.
I think that'd be incredible because he needs the confidence builder. He's been getting battered by the likes of Fury and Zhang, and he must fancy that there's this lad from Britain who, he's never fought any amateurs and all he does is throw big hands. If he needs that confidence builder to have one last go at it,
Yeah,
Wardley versus Wilder would be fucking chaos. I'd love it.
yeah, that's a fun fight.
And you wouldn't sort of rule Wardley out of it because of the poor form of Wilder of late.
I'd fancy Wardley to win that.
Yeah. If Wilder is what he's sort of shown that he's got left,
He's
I'd
done.
definitely
He's done.
fancy.
He's done, 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 done.
But to
No.
me, that seems like the right level. If Wilder's going to continue and have one last go, put him in with Wardley. I'd love to see that.
Wardley, Anthony Joshua?
I was thinking that as well. It's sort of mad, but yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be against it at
There's
all.
some good fun fights. This with all the money they got in the heavyweight division, they'll make whatever fights they want to make, won't they? They'll throw enough money at it to make it happen.
Yeah, but I want Wilder. That seems like the next step. I think that'd be great fun. And just chaos as well. I'll be there.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're
there we
here.
are. Beterbiev Bivol.
Close. It was close. You can't scream robbery, in my opinion. I've watched it. I thought Bivol won, but I don't think it's one of those you could scream daylight robbery. I'm not sure you could give it. I think was it one gave it by 8-4 Beterbiev. I
Yeah.
think that's a bit wide. I thought it was a good fight. I mean, what? But you haven't seen it.
Oh, we're back. I've gone.
You haven't seen it, Beterbiev Bivol.
No. I
No.
watched the last 4 rounds when I got home.
Okay.
And I haven't gone back to watch it as yet. But I will do at some point because it intrigues me. But from everything that I've sort of heard and read, it's everything that people would have hoped it'd be is two elite level operators fight into a very close outcome.
Yeah, that's fair. So it was a good night for those in Riyadh. It was a great night at your call.
Yeah, your call's better. I'm not having it any other way. What I did see, those 4 rounds, it looked like a morgue. So I don't know who's getting any enjoyment out of being there. People sat on tables with like little water bottles in front of them. I know it's not all about the atmosphere, but the atmosphere plays into a boxing event. I'm not having it any other way. You can whinge and cry.
I genuinely would rather have been at York Hall Saturday. If I could have been transported to Dubai, I genuinely would rather have been at York Hall.
Yeah, yeah, and that Tyrone King bringing those, I don't know what it is, 150, 200 odd fans. Egbunike had his own set of fans, which weren't quiet, they weren't shy. That sort of raucousness of having two groups of people supporting different people inside of York Hall, with then a sort of a swing group in the middle that will go with the action. That you can't beat that at York Hall. I'm not having it. I'd rather watch that than undisputed like heavyweight fight.
We'll roll on 7th of December, and Box Mania is going to be back again, and we're working on fights for that now.
Real. Right. Any discussion points in boxing generally before we move? There's not really. I think there's been so much action that it doesn't leave much scope for anything else.
No, I mean, you've got the promoter disputes that are going on there. It's ridiculous, really. But yeah, they're obviously not getting on too well over in Riyadh. So Frank and Eddie obviously getting on all right, but they're not getting on too well with Ben Shalom, are they?
Then you got Callum Sowland sort of sticking his oar in and saying, "This is what I do." All these blokes are like private school educated. Oh yeah, I'd knock him out. I'd put him through a wall. Well, behave, all of you. Just get on with life.
Nuts, isn't it? It's nuts. Do you
Yeah.
know, I genuinely don't understand why. I mean, I've not been in the position, but if we tomorrow were put into were given the Sky contract and Josh was headlining the Sky contract, we had our people running it. You just wouldn't. There's no need to wage a war with these people. You just work together to make the fights. There's just no need for this. You just literally try and sign the fighters you want. Try and make the best deals you can. Try and build up the stable. Deliver the best product, and stop having tittle tattle with other promoters. It's not about the promoters. It's about the fighters. It's not a difficult thing to do. Stop being ridiculous and childish. Get on and just do the job that you should be doing, looking after the fighters. I don't want to argue with other promoters, even at our level. You just get on there, you make the fights. If you get a promoter that doesn't want to make fights with you, right? There is one or two that they really will never want to make a fight with us. And you okay, you don't want to do that. We'll move on. I'm not going to moan about it. We just get on and make the fights and build our fighters without you. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. And it's just crazy. And Ben Shalom just hasn't looked good in the whole thing from the point where he kept pulling out purse bids. That always put him on the back foot with this, didn't it? Because it's like he's star-making all the money and then giving some of it back and claiming it's something else. That's always there with him now, that he's been allegedly as sleazy as anybody else in politics. And the same is in effect with Ben Shalom. He's pulled out all those purse bids last minute. That leaves a sore taste, right? And he doesn't it's just a way of conducting yourself. And that's what's causing, the problems. It's just daft. It's just so silly. It shouldn't be about them. It should be about the fights.
Yeah, I agree. I almost missed the days of Eddie and Frank sniping at one another on IFL because that was almost quite funny. And do you know what's not funny? Watching a load of more than middle-aged blokes pretending they're sort of all ego and macho and going to fight one another on the stage because someone stood in front of the other one grow the fuck up, all of you. I just find it childish and yeah.
Well, to be honest, you've got to remember you had the Frank and Eddie thing, but you've never had this sort of behaviour going on, have you? And
no.
And you got the allegations that the Eubank thing, when he called them all scumbags, was set up by Ben Shalom, apparently. That's what allegedly Frankie's saying. And you do think if this is all going on, this is really, it's just antagonising everybody. And it's silly. It's just silly. Really,
yeah.
really
And
silly.
also, do you know what? The Saudis probably, okay, it brings eyes to some of it. But from my understanding of sort of culture and such like, they're probably not going to be hugely approving of that kind of behaviour. Carry yourselves with a bit of dignity.
Yeah.
Moving on. Right, down at the Copper Box this weekend. I'm not going to go through the whole card because some of it I don't care for. Some of it I do. But we've got Adam Azim headlining against Sahara Davis. Come on to that fight in a little bit. couple of odd sort of additions that have come out of nowhere to the card. Anthony Yard and Shannon Courtney both on it. So Shannon coming over from Matchroom and Anthony coming over from Queensbury. I know Frank sort of alluded to, we'll see what happens if that fight goes ahead. Do you think they've got long-term homes at Boxer? I'm not going to go into these fights because I literally haven't heard of their opponents either.
No, I'm just not, we've covered it, and I just don't understand the Boxer model. I just don't get it. And I'm looking from afar. I don't ask anybody. It doesn't make, I'm a business person in life. And I understand, but this makes no sense. If Ben Shalom is going to continue at Sky and Sky going to continue in boxing, what on earth are they doing? They're not building a sustainable long-term product with the right signings and the right sort of things. To me, it makes no sense. I'll wait to see. But as each month, 3 months, quarter goes on, I just look at it and shake my head and think, what on earth are they doing? And that's my honest opinion of it. So I don't know whether they've got long-term homes because I don't know at the moment. It doesn't look as if Sky are playing long-term.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem on an event-by-event basis, doesn't it? Rather than a strategy that sort of sets them up for the next few years.
And that's why I'm confused. But maybe something is going to come from afar and it's going to explain what's going on. But it makes no sense. Whilst they're doing that, Frank Warren is sort of making signings, controlling a lot of what goes on in Riyadh, and he's becoming the forefront, miles ahead of Ben Shalom now, miles ahead.
Yeah, and I'd also argue miles ahead of Eddie Hearn.
Yeah.
I think Frank has a stable that in depth and in strength is miles ahead of sort of anybody else in Britain.
No, it's fair.
So a few mentions: Francesca Hennessy, Jamie TKV, they're on the card. Sam Hickey. I don't have any interest in any of their fights, no offense, but it doesn't do anything for me. The three that I am interested in, though, Dan Aziz, Lewis Edmondson. That's a decent fight.
That's a good fight.
So yeah, Dan didn't perform last time.
Look, Sky are still making okay fights, but they're not building for the because Dan Aziz now has been, he's lost to Ballazhi. Obviously, he's coming back, but where's the long-term strategy here? He probably beats Edmondson, but it wouldn't be a shock. Edmondson's decent, could be a turn-up.
Well, Aziz was rubbish last time out as well, wasn't he? Against Shvep, was it? Shvep. Yeah. It just didn't perform. So
there's no. They're not building towards big events. They're just throwing people together. I honestly don't get it. In terms of the show, let's look at the show. It's a good fight for the show. So let's look at it from the positive aspects as a fan. They put on a really good fan-friendly fight. So that's going to be, it's good. That'll be good fun to watch.
Sort of slightly laughed at some of the names, but you chuck Anthony Yard on a card, you're going to watch Anthony Yard because it's, he's going to knock someone out, frankly. It sort of sums up his career, knock out a 3 out of 10 fighter or get knocked out by a 8, 9 out of 10 fighter. That is Anthony Yard's career. Sort of adding Shannon Courtney, fair play. But yeah, the Dan Aziz, decent fight against Louis Edmondson. Michael McKinson against Tulani and Benge. I'm quite intrigued by that one, if I'm honest.
That's a good little fight. I hope Mikey wins.
He was down on Saturday night, wasn't he?
Yeah, I spoke to him at the end of your call, and full credit to him. He doesn't get any. He does it the hard way, and again, probably not the most fan-friendly fighter. So TV companies are not jumping through hoops to get him, but he's supremely talented and exciting. Remember the Congo fight? That was good. It was a good fight. Hopefully, he can win and get some more sort of momentum built behind his career because he's supremely talented kid, nice lad. Good luck to him, and I hope he manages to do it. It's a good fight.
Yeah. And he's still only got the one loss on his record, Michael McKinson, to Virgil Ortiz.
Yeah.
Which is, I was chatting with his dad and trainer. Michael Ballinger at the weekend. Sort of going through that whole experience. You know, they didn't get the win, but the experience of what they went through in that fight week, I think will carry them in good stead, hopefully for future opportunities. And then the main event, which is a cracking fight, I think Adam Azim Ahara Davis.
Well, I think Adam Azim wins. I think Ahara's on the slide. But I hope Ahara is not on the slide and he comes back and rolls back the years and puts up a great fight. And then, be great to see him, him do well. I hope he isn't sliding and he goes out on a whimper. I hope that he puts up an amazing fight and the best man wins. But I think in reality, normally in history of boxing, when you get the young up and coming supreme talent against a fighter that's been there, that's sort of getting older and sliding, it's normally where the name is fed to the younger fighter and the younger fighter wins most of the time.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And Ahara Davis was woeful, let's be honest. He didn't turn up in his world title fight. He can blame whatever he likes, the air conditioning in the hotel, all those things. He didn't turn up. He's got to accept that. He had a big opportunity and it didn't work out. But on his day, Ahara Davis is an absolute handful. And maybe it isn't his day anymore. But it's not long back that he was sort of taking apart Lewis Ritson and did a number on Lewis Ritson.
Yeah.
If that version turns up against Adam Azim, I think Azim is gonna struggle a little bit. Because one thing Ritson Davis can be is particularly tough. He can also sort of get taken apart as well, as sort of Josh Taylor did, and as per his world title fight. But Azim's going to have to be, I think, on his best, which I don't think we've seen over the last couple of fights, to take Ahara apart.
That's fair. That's really fair.
Yeah. I think a really good card of sort of 3 intriguing fights and then a couple of names that are added in. So, although I don't necessarily understand what boxers are doing, I'm all in favour of Saturday night.
No, exactly. No, it's not a bad card overall. It's not a bad card. It's not bad. For Saturday night fight night, it's a good little card to watch.
Yeah. Right. That'll do. We've been on it for ages, Steve. As long as you've got big fights to go and make, hopefully next week maybe we can shed a little bit of light on some of them. And we'll start focusing our attention forward to December as well now.
Exactly. Sounds good, Martin. Well, we'll catch up next week.